Well, hello, students. Welcome to lecture for week number 2 out of the textbook Marketing-Based Management. Um, Really, the point of this lecture and this chapter is looking at appreciating the integration between what you would typically think about from an accounting profit and loss statement perspective and the metrics associated with um, those metrics and the marketing metrics that we are studying and learning about in this course. So with that being said, here, if you look at this slide, what you can see here is that from the perspective of marketing and innovation driving strategy within an organization, what this slide basically, what we would argue is that marketing analytics or marketing metrics will indeed drive marketing profits the way, and we'll talk about how that's defined. And those marketing profits and ROI in turn drive company and business unit profitability. Okay. And so this is going to be probably for most, if not all of you, a very new way of looking at running a business. And that is, again, leading with marketing metrics and seeing how those metrics drive financial metrics and thus the way that we measure profitability. Okay. So with that being said, really, again, we're looking at the integration of marketing metrics and financial performance. There's quite a bit of literature in the marketing academic world around how being market oriented as a company or as an organization will statistically drive revenue and profitability. Okay. And so we're not going to really spend any time in the academic literature per se, but the beauty of this book and these slides and the way that this best textbook looks at the correlation connection between marketing and financial performance is a great way for you to, again, build your toolkit as an analyst, as a manager, as a business leader by using these tools that you're going to be filling up, and you are filling up your toolkit with as we move through this textbook. So I'd like for you to consider here, we have a hypothetical company called Biotronics. You can see across the top, we have the base year, and then year 1, year 2, year 3. And so what's interesting about this, these P&Ls for Biotronics is that this looks fairly typical. Okay, so let's break this down. So revenues going from base year to year 3 are going up. Well, that seems good. Cost of goods sold are also going up, which kind of makes sense, right? A lot of, in fact, all of cost of goods sold is a variable cost. So it wouldn't be surprising that as revenues go up, cost of goods sold would also go up. We can see the gross profit is going up from 127 to 215. We see marketing and sales expenses going up from 61 to 82, kind of expected. and then general administrative going up as well. Kind of the one of the big walkaways here is that the pre-tax profit is going up, and we would say, wow, that looks great. From the typical kind of financial metric standpoint, return on sales, pre-tax return on sales is going up. In fact, it more than doubled in 4 years. Sales to asset ratio is improving. Pre-tax return on assets is improving. So the question that we ask ourselves, kind of having our financial lens only perspective on this company's performance, how would you evaluate it? Okay. I think in our normal kind of lens that we would use, a sort of an accountant's lens, we would say, hey, things are looking great. Okay. One thing that is important for us to kind of highlight, and I'm foreshadowing this here, is that number one, not all revenue is profitable revenue. Okay, so what we're going to be doing throughout this lecture and throughout the semester is looking at typical financial performance metrics, and then peeling back sort of the layers of the metaphorical onion to be able to see that sometimes the way, or oftentimes the way that financial reporting takes place, it hides or it masks some underlying elements from a marketing perspective that otherwise would be hidden. Okay. So you might say, okay, well, what do I mean? What do you mean by that? So let's take a look here. Again, same company, Biometrics, or excuse me, Biotronics. So first, outside of Biotronics, the market growth, the growth in the entire industry in which Biotronics plays, is going up. So 20%, 22, excuse me. So 20, and then it went up to 22, down to 21, but still above 20.5, and then 21.3, down slightly, but again, still above the base year. Biotronics sales growth, by comparison, went up slightly from base year to year one, then went down slightly, and then went up slightly. So it sort of seems like here you can see that if our base share was 10%, we're slipping. Okay, right? So our market share in this hypothetical example slips from 10 to 9.4 to 8.9 to 8.5. So, absent this market share line, you would say, well, we're kind of hanging in there. However, if our market share does not keep up with the entire industry growth, a couple of things are happening. And in particular, if the industry or the market is flat, which this is, it would say that the market share is flat, but market share for our company, for Biotronics, is going down. What that means is that our competitors are stealing share from us, right? Not a good thing. So if we just looked at these top marketing metrics, we would say, okay, market shares declining for Biotronics. Well, let's dig a little bit deeper and try to understand what might be driving that. So again, in this hypothetical example, we could look at some competitive competitiveness metrics like product performance. That could be, perhaps quality. We could say that maybe product performance could be analogous to product quality. And we see it slipping from 19 to 17 all the way down to 11. So it kind of makes sense. If our product quality is going down, it makes sense that if we're in a competitive market, in a competitive industry, that we are going to be losing share, which is what seems to be happening, to our competitors. Looks like service quality is also going down, and this notion of customer value, and we can define value as the amount of benefit that customers feel like they're getting from Biotronics product or service relative to what they're paying. And so what you can see here is that ratio is going down, and it's certainly not going in Biotronics' favor. We could also look at customer satisfaction and index here, right? So 78 down to 64, going the wrong direction. Customer retention, how many customers are we losing? Again, we're getting indications that we're losing share to competition, and indeed, you can see that our retention, the number of customers that we keep from year to year, is slipping from 77 all the way down to 65. So that coincides with this market share slip. And then lifetime value. We talked a little bit about that in last week's lecture. The notion that the amount of money that customers are spending with us over the lifetime of the relationship, and however Biotronics is measuring this, has fallen more than 50%. So again, what's interesting is, while if we looked at the typical financial performance, what we would see is that, excuse me for a second, what we would see on the surface is, hey, everything looks pretty good. But when we dig a little bit deeper, we see that things are not so good. Okay. So while we again previously said smiley face, green light, everything great, now maybe sort of a meh face, and not feeling as good about the business as we had thought before. Another way of depicting what's going on here for Biotronics, so this darker blue line is the market growth, okay, the industry growth, and then you can see our sales growth. Well, you remember from algebra that this slope is higher, greater, more positive than this slope. You can see that because these lines are not parallel. Okay. Another way to look at this differential between the market and sales is you can see the percentage of market share for Biotronics going down, again, as was indicated in the prior slide. So while again, we could in isolation say, sales are going up, things are great. Well, not so much, because we're growing slower than the industry and we're losing share to our competitors. Okay. So not necessarily the rosy picture that we had initially thought. Now, here, what we're saying is, if we indeed, as Biotronics, could retain the 10% market share that we had in our base year, remember if we go back, right, we had a 10% market share in our base year, and that's depicted here. If we were indeed able to hold that market share of 10%, which would be indicative of the fact that the slopes of these two lines, the industry and Biotronics itself, these lines would be parallel, the slopes would be equal, okay? But they're not. So in this hypothetical scenario, if in fact we can hold our market share at 10%, then if we flow all of these assumptions all the way down to looking at pre-tax return on assets, what we would say is that if we would say, okay, we didn't lose any profit in base year because we maintained or we started at 10% market share. But if we maintain 10% here with all of these assumptions, we would say that indeed, this is a little bit confusing, but it would say that we would have recouped 5 million in year one, 13 in year two, and 23 in year three. You add all of those up, it would say that by retaining market share, okay, just staying current relative to competitors and growing with the market itself, you would have recouped, or you would have retained 41 million in additional profits. Okay. So again, the message is it's not just that you're growing your sales, but you're also keeping pace with the market and retaining the customers that you do have. So what I hope you're starting to see in this chapter, in this lecture, is that there is more to the story than simply the accounting statements, okay? And that's where you as an analyst, you as a manager, you as a business leader putting a marketing hat on, that you can start to see the picture more clearly and holistically than you would have if you just used the accounting lens, okay? So if we pause a little bit, it's just kind of helping us appreciate why marketing metrics are important, okay? We have metrics that tell us lots of things, right? So here, if we're talking about our physical health, okay, we're going to have, and we do have metrics around our temperature, blood pressure, or pulse. If we're looking at our car, right? So we're going to have a metric around how much gas we have, how fast we're going, the pressure, PSI, pounds per, whatever tire, PSI. You can tell I don't work at an auto repair shop. Thankfully, no one's cars would work. But we have metrics around tire pressure, right? We could have oil pressure gauges. We can have odometers, lots of different metrics that we can have for a car. Marketing metrics, okay? We can look at a marketing metric around retention. And so you might say 67%. Excuse me, I'm going to take a sip here. So we might say 67%. Well, that's pretty good. Well, not really. What it means is that you're pretty much losing one of every 3 customers that you currently have. So that's not great. We could look at a marketing return on investment metric, okay? And if we, let's say in this hypothetical example, an ROI of 150, it says, and this is pretty good, I guess we'd have to kind of compare it to historical measures and competitor measures, but at 150%, what we can say is that for every dollar in marketing and sales spending, we are getting back $1.50. Okay. And this numeric approach to tying marketing metrics to financial metrics is really important because historically, and I'm talking about over the last 50 years or so, historically, marketing professionals weren't necessarily fluent or conversant in numbers such that they wouldn't necessarily be able to carry on a deep and rich and complicated conversation with the CFO. Just didn't necessarily think about the business in the same way. So again, that's why being able to tie these marketing metrics to financial metrics is so important. Share development index. So let's say in this hypothetical example, if the share development index is 40, we could say only 40% of the opportunity or share potential has been developed. Okay. So here, we're just acknowledging that marketing metrics are, in some sense, very expected because we have metrics in lots of other parts of life that tell us how we're doing. Okay. Now, a distinction that we can make between financial metrics and marketing metrics, really a couple of distinctions. So financial metrics are often internal performance metrics, right? So we're looking at how has the organization performed relative to the financial metrics that are typically used by companies to assess if they're doing a good job stewarding the money that the revenue that's coming in. Now, that's great. And certainly it's undeniable that we need to measure our organizations against these sorts of financial metrics, but it's only half of the picture. Okay. So while financial metrics are internal, marketing metrics are customer centric and therefore are external metrics. They're not focusing on how the company is doing. We're focusing on how well we are doing in the eyes of our target segment, our customer segment. Okay. So you can see some of these metrics would be market share, satisfaction, customer satisfaction, retention, quality, service and performance, product quality, marketing return on investment, marketing return on sales. Okay. So one element that marketing metrics add is it gives us the external perspective, which is sort of the other side of the financial metric coin, if you will. And what's interesting here is if we consider, the relationship between profitability and relative market share. So as you could imagine, the more market share we have, we would anticipate that our profitability would be going up, right? So that's sort of thing number one. Okay, thing number two is as we retain more customers, we would imagine that our profitability would go up. Again, marketing metrics have a high correlation with profitability. Our service quality, as it goes up relative to competition, we would see that our profitability should go up. And then finally, thing number 4 is as marketing return on investment goes up, we would imagine that profitability would go up. So here the slide is a pretty important question. So why would a business with higher relative service quality be more profitable? Well, one way to think about that is as our service quality goes up, you could imagine that profitability would go up because we're retaining customers. Okay, so if we're doing a better job of taking care of the customers that we have, we're probably going to keep more of those, which would in turn help us increase our market share, everything else being equal. So moving on here. So we looked at we're appreciating that 2 sides of the metrics coin, if you will. This is going to get a little weird in a second. It would be internal and external company metrics, right? So internal would be financial, external would be marketing. The other thing to appreciate is that there's another dimension. It's not only internal, external, but it's backward in time and forward in time. Okay, so metaphorically speaking, you could drive your car by only focusing on your rear view mirror, but eventually that will turn out to be a really bad idea. Okay, and I think we can all sort of agree on that. So we have to appreciate that we need metrics that not only measure our internal performance, they measure our external performance, they measure our performance looking backward in time, and they measure our anticipated performance looking forward in time. So for example, a forward-looking marketing metric would be, is my customer awareness going up? If there are more customers aware, then everything else being equal, we would have a greater probability of converting customers from not only being aware of us, but also actually buying products and services from us. So that's an external forward looking metric. Customer satisfaction. Okay, same kind of thought process. Perceived performance. Okay, how are we doing in the eyes of the customer relative to their expectations and relative to competition? Okay, and then intent to repurchase, right? So remember, we were talking last lecture about most of our profitability as a business is related to our ability to retain loyal customers. So, I'm sure you've probably thought about it at some level, but why do airlines provide loyalty kinds of rewards like a silver, gold, platinum level kind of customer? It's because there is wide recognition that most of the profitability of any business is related to keeping customers coming back, keeping them coming back again and again and again. All right. So now we're going to shift. We're going to sort of pivot some of the financial metrics that you are familiar with, probably, like financial profitability, gross margin, operating margin, and financial return on investment. And we're going to look at those through the lens of a marketing performance. And so we're going to consider uh, uh, net marketing contribution and marketing return on investment. So let's take a look at this slide here. So what we can see is that a typical income statement, right? So we've got 125 in revenue, an operating income of 8%, let's say, okay, in this hypothetical. Now, what's interesting here is that sales, general, and administrative, or SG&A, are all aggregated here at 23.5. Now, what in that's sort of, again, the financial lens that we'll use, right? However, if we on the right-hand side want to examine marketing profitability, then what we can do, right, is we're going to be able to parse out or tease out the marketing and sales expenses and look at how well is the marketing function doing in returning value to the company here. So here's how we want to think about this, okay? What you'll notice is that SG&A on the left-hand side and other operating expenses, if we add those up, then we have 38.5. Okay. Now, what we want to be able to appreciate here is if we tease out marketing and sales expenses, we're going to, out of the 23.5 and the 15, we're going to tease out marketing and sales, and we're going to say, okay, that's 18.5. I can identify marketing and sales expenses at 18.5. But if I know that my total is 38.5, I'm going to take 38.5, subtract 18.5. And by definition, I'm going to have, for general, administrative, and other expenses, I'm going to have 20. Okay. So again, the total 38.5 is the same on both sides. We're just teasing out the marketing and sales expenses so that we can appreciate what is the net marketing contribution. Okay. So in this case, what we're seeing, right, in both the left-hand side and the right-hand side, is gross profit is 48.5. But as I tease out marketing or break out marketing and sales expenses of 18.5, what I can say is that definitively the net marketing contribution is 30. Okay. All right. So again, we're just slicing this differently and teasing out or breaking out marketing and sales expenses so that we can call out what is what we as defined here, the net marketing contribution. Okay. So you might be asking yourself, well, why would I want to do that? Okay. Well, again, the purpose of this lecture and this course is for you to be able to understand that marketing metrics are, hopefully you're starting to see this, are a wonderful complement to, they don't replace financial metrics, but they complement them because they provide a fuller picture of the health of the business. Okay. So this is kind of interesting here. What we're appreciating is that some companies will break out marketing and sales expenses, but some don't. Okay. Again, the typical approach is to just simply release or make public the financial metrics. But, and it's kind of interesting, right? Lots of these companies here, in fact, I would say all of them have historically had a strong marketing function. I know obviously Campbell's Soup has been around for a long time, very successful from a marketing perspective. Microsoft, I think the same could be said. SAP, you may have never heard of, but they are a large enterprise resource planning firm out of Germany. And then Adobe, you're probably familiar with Adobe, and the way that you would probably typically know about them would be PDFs, right? Portable document format. Okay. So here, Best, the author, is noting that these companies do indeed break out marketing and sales expenses. Now, for those companies that don't, he is suggesting that 75% of sales, general, and administrative would be a fair estimate of marketing and sales expenses, right? So he's taken the average of SG&A for these companies at almost 30. They break out marketing and sales at 22.3, and then general administrative at 7.4. So what he is suggesting is that if I divide 22 into 29, it should be roughly 74%. Okay, so he's suggesting, okay, wait a sec. The math nerd in me wants me to like just make sure I've understood how he did this. So, whoops, let me move he's not letting me do that. All right, so I'm going to divide 22.3 into 29.7. 22.3 divided by 29.7. Okay, so it's close, right? So 74-75%. I think that is a fair way to think about MSE, or marketing and sales expenses, if you're analyzing your business or any business and you're able to get your hands on the SG&A percentage. A fair estimate of the marketing and sales expenses would be 75% of SG&A. All right, so this is sort of an important slide because it sort of lets us look at how net market contribution is being measured and what is indeed driving marketing return on sales and net marketing contribution. Okay, so you might be asking yourself, you might say, well, okay, what is this 24%? Okay, return on sales. Well, the way we calculate that is we're going to take the 30, okay, that's 30 from here, net marketing contribution. And we're going to divide that into 125, which is total revenue. And that is indeed 24%. Okay, so that's how that metric is calculated. We're going to take the same 30 million net marketing contribution, and we're going to divide that by marketing sales expenses of 18.5. And so when I divide 30 by 18.5, you see that that results in a marketing return on investment of 162%. So again, we want to understand what are marketing metrics, how are they defined, and then equally as important is how are those marketing, what are the drivers of those calculations? Because if I understand, or when I understand how marketing metrics are calculated and what is driving those numbers, and if I know what those marketing metrics relationship is to financial performance, then I know where to invest, which is really the nature of strategy, right? The name of the course is strategic analytics, right? So here, if we are able to break out net marketing contribution, we are able to then say, well, when I am able to increase revenues and I'm able to do that in a more and more efficient manner from a marketing and sales perspective, my marketing return on sales are going to go up, and you know, equally, at least from a direction standpoint, my marketing ROI is going to go up. Okay. All right. So just as we were talking about before, how did we calculate marketing return on sales? We took 30 million, again, which is from this net marketing contribution that in this hypothetical example was broken out. If you don't have it broken out, again, you could use 75% of SG&A as an estimate. 30 million in this hypothetical divided by 125, which again, 125 is the total sales revenue. 30 divided by 125 times 100 is 24%. Okay, so that gives us our return on sales number. Okay. Now, again, when we're looking at marketing return on investment, we have that net marketing contribution of 30 million, either broken out or estimated, divided by marketing and sales expenses of 18.5, right? So 30 divided by 18.5 is 162%. The reason why this is really important, again, putting our marketing hats on, is that for every dollar that the CFO, for example, gives marketing to go make more money on, you give me $1, Mr. or Mrs. CFO, I'm going to give you $1.62 back. That's pretty good. Okay, again, we'd have to look at it within the context of the industry. We'd have to look at it in context to historical performance. We'd have to look at it in context with competitors' marketing return on investment. But you know, given that, you know, if we look at this through the triple bottom line and the Christian lens, right? If we go to the parable of the talents, what did the owner do? The owner gave the servant money, and the good servants took that money, invested it, and gave more back to the owner. Okay. So this notion of investing money and returning it back is obviously has biblical support. It certainly is the foundation for the notion of capitalism in the world. And so again, this is important for us to be able to use the marketing lens in order to give us a fuller picture of the overall business performance. You could obviously go out on your own, and if you like, I would certainly encourage you to go out to you know, Nike's financial performance, and you could sort of, I don't know, frankly, if they break out marketing and sales expenses, but remember, we've got our little 75% estimator that we can use. Same thing with GoPro. Lots of different, obviously publicly traded companies. We could use that kind of analysis and try to infer, where it's not broken out, infer what marketing return on sales and marketing return on investment would be. Sorry about that. The answering machine was kicking on. So we're probably one of the only people in the world that still have an old-fashioned answering machine. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So that being said, we've examined financial metrics, marketing metrics. We've looked at how those are calculated. We've looked at how those metrics are driven, what's driving those metrics that we're using, and how they provide a fuller picture of the health of the organization. Two additional analyses that I want you to appreciate are, given these metrics, we can use them to slice and dice data from not only a product perspective, but also from a customer perspective. So here we have this example of Santa Fe sportswear. So we're looking at here marketing manager's presentation of product line profitability. So in this fictional case, we have product lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then we have our typical profit and loss income statement. Now, if we look at if we look at organizational performance across these product lines, and then we break out our net marketing contribution, then what we can see is that we can start to compare, right? So we can now compare what is net marketing contribution, and again, we're using this hypothetical 30. Where is the 30 coming from? Well, it looks like about half of it's coming from khaki pants, about 1/5 of it from windbreakers, about 1/6 from classic polo, casual shorts, whatever 1 divided by 30 is, small, less than probably 4%. 2%, or excuse me, 2 from knitted sweaters, so 1/15. Okay. And then if we look at net profit before taxes, we can see that casual shorts are net profit before taxes has the lowest net marketing contribution in terms of absolute dollars and percentage, but when we include other operating expenses, okay, here's that 3.5 right up here, we've broken out the 1.5 in marketing and sales, and that leaves us with 2. 1 minus 2 is a -1. So the question becomes, should we stop selling, promoting casual shorts? Okay, that's our question. Okay. And I would say that if you were a brand manager, let's say this is, here the fictional brand is Santa Fe, but it could be, let's say it's Nike. Okay. And so if you're the brand manager for Nike for casual shorts, your vice president of marketing might be saying, not sure what that Ross guy is doing. He's actually doesn't look like he's doing too great. Okay. So that is a question that arises. Okay. However, if we look at marketing return on sales and marketing ROI broken out across these 5 product categories, what we would see is that, of course, our marketing ROI is higher in the other product lines other than casual shorts. Again, the spotlight is on casual shorts. Okay. It has only a 10% return on sales and only a 67% return on marketing return on investment, because we're losing money. That's why our ROI is less than 1 here. That one's a little bit suspect, right? Because we didn't make any money here, but we're underwater on the marketing ROI because of our other operating expenses. So again, the question is, how should the marketing manager and product manager for casual shorts respond? Okay, so now we've got some diagnostic tools, right? Marketing strategy: drop the casual shorts product line to improve profits. Is that a good decision or a bad decision, right? So we've got our operating income, and we can break it out, right, by our net marketing contribution. Okay, and we can look at that across all of our product lines. Here's our formula. Here we've you know, for example, for net marketing contribution for one is khaki pants 15.5. There's our 15.5. 6, 5.5, 1, 2, 6, 5.5, 0, 2. Then I'm going to subtract my G&A and my other operating. So the way that, you know, kind of doing this comparison, the question is, if I get rid of casual shorts product line, does that help me out or not? And based upon this analysis, my operating income will drop by 1 million, goes from 10 million to 9 million, right? So here was my 10 million. It's going to go down to 9 million because the operating income, other operating expenses, can be spread across that additional product line, or casual shorts product line. So kind of the key takeaway is, right, so because general admin expenses do not have anything to do with product lines, the total remains. So the key takeaway is that if a net marketing contribution is positive, then it will contribute to profits. Okay, so, you know, kind of going back up one slide here, we can see that casual shorts, while underwater on net profit before taxes, it did add 1 million, here this is in millions, added 1 million in net marketing contribution. And therefore, we need to keep that product line according to this analysis so that we can have 10 million in operating income instead of 9 million. Okay, so I had mentioned a couple minutes ago that using these analytical tools, now we can analyze business performance not only at the product level, but we can also measure it at the customer level. Whoops, I got a little bit ahead of myself. Sorry about that. Here's you know, another systematic way if we're trying to understand where do the marketing profits for khaki pants come from. Okay, so here is khaki pants, net marketing contribution 15.5. That ties over here. And so again, this is sort of our marketing influence diagram. I was going to say autopsy, but that's a little dark. So what is driving this 15.5 million? Well, we have to look at what is market demand. What's our market share? What's the average selling price? What's our channel discount right here? So average selling price 80, but if it's at 50%, then I got to give away 50% of 80, which is $40 to the channel, so they will agree to carry our product. What's my unit cost, right? So my margin 24 into 40, or 16 into, let's see. Wow, this is dangerous when you try to do math on the fly here. Okay, my math nerd comes out. Yeah. So yeah, so 40 minus 24 is 16, 16 divided by 40, $40, 16 million divided by, excuse me, back up. $16 divided by $40 is 0.4. So there's our margin, right? And then marketing and sales expenses. So again, this is a beautiful diagnostic tool that can help us determine, is marketing doing a good job? And if it is, what are the causes for that? What are the levers that are driving that? So that now as managers, as leaders, we can go work on each one of these specific elements to help drive this net marketing contribution up, which in turn should drive our gross profit. Okay. Now, another way to kind of think about this, which, by the way, most executives love these kind of what they'll call bubble charts. So we're charting each of the product lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On x-axis, marketing return on investment, and marketing return on sales. Okay. Sort of interesting here, probably not a lot of surprise. Polo is up here at the top, and we could see that, right? Because classic Polo net marketing contribution, or excuse me, marketing ROI of 276. So we're up here at, yeah, so we're at 276, and return on sales looks like around 40. Return on sales, right? 36.7. Okay. So the reason why this is important is that it tells us where our marketing dollars are best spent. Okay, just another way for us to think about it. Here's our sportswear average of right here. It's just kind of a weighted average of each of the 5 product lines. So, you can basically see that windbreakers are sort of, maintaining a whole right at our kind of our average, but casual shorts and knitted sweaters are underperforming, and classic polos are above average and overperforming. So are khaki pants. So again, this sort of drives the point home that not all revenue is equally profitable revenue, right? So classic polo is outperforming from an ROI and an ROS perspective, but classic polo is generating 60 million. Okay. And you might say, well, but yeah, but look at well, let's look at net sell. I'm sorry, average. Where did I go? Well, let's look at it this way. Sorry. So if the unit volume sold total across the entire company is 3.1, and classic polo is 0.5 or 1/6 of 3.1, then you would say, well, looks like, most of our, volume is coming from khaki pants. That's probably would tell us that that's where we should invest more, right? So more marketing dollars. However, we can look at 25.8 versus 36.7 and 182 divided or as opposed to 276. So what we would say is actually, if I were going to invest one more dollar in marketing, I would want to invest it be most efficiently used in classic polo. So again, this is why executives get paid a lot of money, because they have to look at the business from lots of different angles and determine where should the an additional dollar of marketing spend, where should it go? Okay. Now another way that we can slice and dice this data for Santa Fe Sportswear is by market segment or customer segment. And so for Santa Fe Sportswear, it looks like they've determined they've got 3 different customer segments. So they've got a traditional buyer, don't know exactly what that is, fashion seeker. So maybe Santa Fe has a product line that is your, flashier kinds of clothes. When you are, let's say, if you're into golfing, traditional buyer might buy tan or brown. Maybe the fashion seeker buys red or pink. I don't know. And then the trendsetter might buy plaid or paisley. I know paisley's a little bit dated, but you sort of get the idea. Not every customer that buys Santa Fe Sportswear is the same. Okay. Same kind of analysis, just slicing it based on customer segment rather than by product type. Okay. Different unit of analysis. So we can see by customer segment, our net marketing contribution in terms of dollars here, there's our same 30, right? That's our same 30 million, but it's split out by customer segment. And now what we can see is that marketing return on sales is highest among traditional buyers, and our marketing return on investment is higher among traditional buyers. So that's sort of interesting, right? So the question is Santa Fe Sportswear had one more dollar to invest? Again, this is a marginal analysis for marketing and sales. Where should they invest it? Okay. So what we can do is, really the answer is purely from a market ROI perspective. We would say, well, for every dollar that I invest in marketing in the traditional buyer segment, I'm going to get back $2.24, right? That's that 224. So again, that's a way that we can use this marketing performance tool 2.2 to help us answer this question. Okay. So this is sort of, again, an exploded view, if you will, of what is driving net market contribution. It's market demand, market share, average selling price, channel discount, percent margin, and marketing budget. And so here, when we think about marketing strategy, really largely the purpose of this course, we could and should, as business executives, have strategies for can we, as a business, drive market demand? Can we? Are we that big, right? What can we do from a strategic perspective to increase our market share? What can we do to improve the prices that different customers within our franchise are willing to pay. Okay. What can we do to lower, are there strategies to lower the amount of margin that we have to give away to the channel? Okay. Are there, what kind of strategies are there to improve our overall profit margin? Maybe it's manufacturing cost, right? And then marketing efficiency. So can we move, for example, marketing expenditures from, and I know people don't print as much as they used to, but you can imagine a 4-color full bleed marketing brochure. Let's say if you go to a car dealership, it costs them millions of dollars to print those brochures, right? So maybe, and I would guarantee if you are the VP of marketing at Ford or General Motors or Tesla, or, name your big car company, that they're working on, okay, we want to print fewer brochures, right? We want to have more of those available in digital format, and people can print them if they want to, but we're not going to pay for it, right? So again, different ways for us to think about what strategies can be implemented to help us continue to drive higher and higher net marketing contribution. We noted that the traditional buyer has the highest net marketing contribution of 15.7. If we tie that back here, and it's their marketing ROI of 224. Well, what's driving that, right? So again, we can see all of these levers, which I would encourage you to think about as areas where marketing can develop specific strategies to drive that net marketing contribution up and up and up. We've talked about several times here in this lecture that you can analyze your organization internally with financial metrics, externally with marketing metrics, and then both looking backward in time and forward in time. And that's great. But a good friend of mine, I don't think it's certainly original with him, but it's certainly stuck out with me, is a statistic by itself really isn't super valuable unless it's compared to someone or something else. Okay. So here in this example, looking at marketing ROI, it seems like everybody's favorite company is Apple. I know that's debatable, but certainly it seems that among undergraduate students, Apple is like everything in the world. So I'm joking a little bit, but so Apple often gets called out as, wow, they're the greatest company in the world kind of stuff. And so we can look at Apple's operating income and their net marketing contribution. Okay. Now you can tell this is dated from 2011. But what we can do is we can also look at Apple's net marketing contribution and then compare it to sort of an old company relative to Apple, General Motors. Okay, so you see that that there is sort of an interesting distribution here where year to year the relationship between net marketing contribution and operating income is sort of all over the map here, right? And you can see if we look at marketing ROI and operating income that again, we started out in 2006, then we went down to 2007, we went down 2008, then we went way down to 2009, then we went up in 2010. So the question is, why is GM's net marketing contribution less correlated with operating income? It's a great question. How did marketing ROI correspond with operating income as a percentage of sales? So different picture, okay, for that industry. We can look at an industry like IT kind of industry. This is one that I've spent 20 years of my life working in. So the company I worked for, our largest competitor was HP. We were a spinoff of IBM. So here you can see that Apple, when you look at their marketing return on sales and operating income, there is a wonderful relationship they have between our marketing ROI and operating income. Less so for Dell. Okay. IBM, some of you may have never heard of. You probably heard of Dell. This kind of makes sense to me intuitively because Apple, if I can buy a new laptop, a Dell laptop, at the lowest entry point for like what, $300 or $400. Apple, MacBook, not so much, right? And they've Apple, good for them from a marketing prowess perspective, right? They've been able to drive that brand such that it's a premium brand, and Apple customers are willing to pay more for it because of its premium brand position here, right? So if we look at here's the tables beneath that sort of support these bubble charts. Apple's marketing ROI is 323 versus Dell. They're basically returning 6 cents for every dollar that's invested, as opposed to for every dollar that's invested with Apple, they're getting back $2.23, right? And then Toshiba, poor Toshiba, they're not doing so great, right? At least at this point in time. And then if we zoom out even a little bit more and we look at Apple's return on sales and operating income relative to the Fortune 500, at least at the time of this publication, which I believe was 2016, Apple is well above the Fortune 500 average around operating income. Okay. But they're not, they are not as high as some of these others, right? Like this one would be interesting to know who that is. In looking at all of the Fortune 500 companies, if you were to use this analysis and say, I could invest money in only one company's stock of the Fortune 5, Apple wouldn't be a bad choice, at least at the time of this publication, but I'd be pretty interested to see who this is, right? I don't know who that is. And then, so we were looking at IT, or excuse me, we looked at the IT industry, then we looked at sort of the leader in that segment or in that industry, and then compared it to the Fortune 5. Let's look at another industry, airlines. Ooh, that's a tough business. If you want to be in the airline business, I think, this is pretty tough, right? Customer sat, not super great. Marketing ROI, not so great. This is Southwest, American. Oh gosh. I'm not sure who that is. Delta, United. I'm blanking on who that is. But you can see United Airlines, at least the time of this publication. So their customer sat index, assuming this is all accurate, was at 60. It's below the airline average. And it sort of makes sense that their marketing ROI is far below the competitors' average. Look at this, they're spending more on marketing and sales than they're certainly than Delta. Okay, so Delta looks like they're way above average on marketing ROI, way above average on return on sales and return on assets. So my guess is that while the customer sat isn't much better than United, that they have larger market share. And I would venture to say that while their customers are sort of ticked off relative to, I bet this is Continental. Okay, it finally came to me. Even though their customers, Delta's customers, aren't as happy as Southwest, they're still way outperforming American, Continental at the time, and even outperforming Southwest. So even though their SAT index is almost 80 versus 60, their marketing ROI is well below what Delta's is. So kudos to Delta's marketing department, right? Here we go. And so if we look at airlines average versus the entire Fortune 5, not great, right? Not so great. I think, Apple's looking a lot better than owning an airline stock, for example. So that's all I have here for our lecture here for week number 2. I know we covered a lot of material. The beautiful thing with these recorded lectures is you can go back and rewind and listen and listen and listen. And if all else fails, I'm sort of joking. I am joking. Feel free to reach out via email or text. And I would be certainly more than happy to meet with you. So God bless you. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. And I will see you again soon. Thanks a lot.